Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Welcome to Ask Rob and Rob, that staple of a Tuesday where we receive 2 property questions and then provide answers to them. Chris and Marlon are our questioners this week, so we will waste very little time before hearing those. But first, it's worth having a quick recap of how you get your own question in.
Yes, you can call us on 013 808 00035. Leave us a voicemail and you may hear yourself on the show. Or the other way to hear yourself on the show is go to propertyhub.net/ask. That's exactly what Chris has done. Let's listen to his question.
Hi, Rob. Chris here from London. I spoke with an investor about a possible property in Bootle, Liverpool, the other day, and he told me that street is not the best and I should look elsewhere. I have the following question. Is it true that properties vary that much street by street? Is it true that if I buy somewhere else, which is 2 minutes away, all of my problems will be solved somehow? I find this a bit hard to believe, but if this is the case, how do I go about getting the local knowledge? Because going from estate agent to estate agent and asking what they think about this street or the other, I don't think that approach will get me very far.
Chris, this is made for me. North Liverpool, that's where I'm originally from. And the quick answer is yes. Streets can be really different. This isn't exclusive to Liverpool. This is all over the country. If you think about London, the difference of 2 areas, maybe a few hundred yards away, can be vast. And it's no different for any other city or major town in the country. Now, the good news is you don't need to know every single street, because loads of streets are the same. You'll have lots of streets that are all bad. You'll have lots of streets that are all good. And occasionally in cities, you've got these borderline areas where it can be street by street. For example, another area in Liverpool is that you've got the hospital, the Royal, and that's on the edge of the city centre, and there's some good stuff around there. But a few hundred yards in the wrong direction, and you're looking at a very different property investment. Doesn't mean it's a bad area, but it's just a very different area. And this is why research is so important. Rob and I talk about all the time that just picking a city because the overall fundamentals of that city are good is not enough. In fact, it's far from ideal. Yes, absolutely, get to know that city and its fundamentals and why it's a strong investment prospect. But then carry on at that research and get to know localised areas of those towns and cities. And do what you've done. Speak to local investors. Speak to local experts. Get to understand the area by doing that level of research. But if you are going to be hands-off because the area is further away, that's not an excuse to negate research. Now, Chris, I'm not telling you off because you were clearly doing your research. You've even asked the question on Ask Rob and Rob. This is just a wider point for everybody. And this is why we love this show, because by you asking a question, it helps educate so many others. So thank you, and I hope that helps.
All right, let's have a listen to our second question. This one's from Marlon.
I was wondering what the benefits of getting a mortgage versus buying with cash if you can afford to. I haven't seen any videos or anything about that, so I'd like to know more about your views around that. Specifically, so I have 60% of the deposit of a house I'm currently buying, and 40% will be provided by a family member who I'll pay back just like a mortgage, obviously with much more flexibility and without any interest. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about that situation.
Marlon, I could talk about the benefits of using a mortgage for hours, but I won't, because Ask Rob and Rob is a brief show. Instead, I'll give you a little bit of a taster, then I'll direct you to a couple of resources we've got that will flesh this out some more for you. So if you've got enough cash to buy a property outright, and if you used a mortgage instead, the leftover cash you wouldn't use for anything, there's nothing else that you'd do with it, it would just sit there in the bank earning no interest, then there's not really much of a benefit to leverage. But most people find that if they had access to more funds, then they would buy more, and that is where the benefits kick in. If you can put down 100% of a purchase, or you can put down 25% of a purchase, then you can buy 4 times as much. Okay, you can't because there's taxes and things like that, but you can buy a lot more. And that means that you're collecting more rent on that larger number of properties, and you're benefiting from the capital growth of that greater number of properties. Simply put, if you've got a £100,000 portfolio and the value of that portfolio goes up by 10%, you've made £10,000. If you've got a £400,000 portfolio and it goes up by 10%, you've made £40,000. And if you're using leverage, you could have ended up putting in exactly the same amount of your own money in both those scenarios. There's loads more to say about leverage, and it's so powerful that we have described it in the past as a property investor's secret weapon. That is the title of episode 308 of the Property Podcast. So we'll link to that in the show notes. Go listen to that because that takes you in detail through the many benefits of leverage and some of the dangers as well, which is important to highlight. It's also one of the central planks of something we lay out in a course called How Property Will Make You Rich in the Long Term. And that is about using time to your advantage and compounding your gains, but also about using leverage and harnessing inflation and using inflation to your benefit rather than being something to be scared of, which it is for most people. That course is part of Property Hub University. It's completely free, and we'll link to that in the show notes as well. So if you go listen to and watch those, you may not change your views completely. It might not change your strategy, but you'll at least have a better appreciation for why so many property investors use mortgages. And you can at least then consider in the light of that whether your current approach is the right one for you.
So that's us done for another week. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with the Property Podcast. So until then, everyone, take care, have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.